Workplace wellness programs and talk of work-life balance are papering over a devastating trend in corporate life. It's a trend that isn't just making work miserable. It's a systemic failure with a staggering financial cost. Businesses love to talk about their star performers, but they have created a culture that is designed to burn these exact people out. I saw this happen firsthand. This isn't just a story about my colleague. It's a case study in how modern corporate culture manufactures burnout. The conference room was stale. Just 10 minutes earlier, our team's star performer, let's call her Elena, was walking us through the quarterly budget with military precision. By every metric, she was the best of us. The one who stayed later, worked harder, and never dropped a ball. She was the engine of our department. And then, a simple question from the CFO about a minor variance. She froze. Her words caught. Her eyes darted around the room in a panic, and then she crumpled to the floor, hyperventilating. A full-blown panic attack. In that moment, the spreadsheets became meaningless. As our director fumbled to call for help, one thought became clear. The system did this. This relentless pursuit of more broke her. This wasn't a sudden malfunction. It was the public explosion after a long, silent detonation that the corporate playbook is designed to ignore. To understand the collapse, you have to understand the system that created her. Our company, a mid-sized tech firm, had a culture that could be described as ambitiously dysfunctional. It celebrated heroes, the lone genius who could pull an all-nighter to save a project. We talked about work-life balance in town halls, but we rewarded the people who sacrificed their nights and weekends. Elena was perfectly suited to be that hero. In her first year, she single-handedly revamped a client reporting system that had been failing for 2 years. She was praised, got a spot bonus, and was anointed the go-to person for anything critical. Looking back, that was the beginning of the end. Her reward for incredible work was more incredible work. The most challenging projects and the tightest deadlines all went to her. Our director would frame it as a compliment. I'm giving it to Elena because I know she can handle it. But it was also a sentence. This isn't a unique phenomenon. Her perfectionism was exploited by a corporate culture that relies on it. Why hire 3 people to do a job meticulously when you could give it to one Elena, who would do it beyond meticulously, driven by her own impossible standards? She was the buffer for her own team, absorbing pressure from above so it wouldn't crush those below. This is a classic pattern, especially for women in leadership who are often expected to perform both the strategic and the emotional labor of a team. Women in corporate America already report higher levels of burnout than men, a gap that has widened significantly since 2019. Elena was living that statistic in real time. We all saw the evidence hidden in plain sight. The empty coffee cups, the emails sent at 2 a.m., the lunch eaten at her desk. We even developed a kind of gallows humor about it, calling her a machine or a superhero. We dehumanized her to make sense of a workload we knew was fundamentally unsustainable. But high performer is a deceptive term. It implies effortless excellence, but it was a grind. Her identity, both in her own mind and in the eyes of the company, became fused with her output. She wasn't Elena, the person. She was Elena, the one who delivers. And when your entire sense of self-worth is tied to your ability to perform, you don't just fail at your job. You fail at being you. The thing about burnout is that it's not a sudden event. It's a slow, predictable erosion. The World Health Organization defines it as a syndrome from chronic workplace stress that hasn't been successfully managed, characterized by 3 things: feelings of energy depletion, increased mental distance from your job, and reduced professional efficacy. Watching Elena in the months leading up to her collapse was like watching a textbook case study. First came the physical signs. The energetic Elena began to look perpetually exhausted, with the dark circles under her eyes and a persistent cold. Burnout isn't just in your head. It's linked to a host of physical issues as the body's stress response system goes into overdrive. Chronic workplace stress is a contributing factor in around 120,000 deaths each year in the United States alone. Then came the behavioral changes. The meticulous Elena started to become frayed. She missed a minor deadline and was mortified, apologizing profusely to a director who acknowledged she had a lot on her plate. The problem wasn't the missed deadline. It was the workload that made it inevitable. According to research, an excessive workload is the primary driver of burnout for 52% of employees. The easygoing chats stopped. She started wearing headphones all day, isolating herself. This mental withdrawal is a hallmark of burnout, a self-preservation tactic when cognitive resources are depleted. The cynicism crept in too. When a new company initiative was announced, the old, engaged Elena was replaced by someone who muttered, "Just another thing to add to the pile." This is a defense mechanism against the powerlessness to change your circumstances. The passion was replaced by a grim determination to simply survive. Her situation was also exacerbated by her being a millennial manager. Studies show burnout is hitting younger generations the hardest, with millennials reporting symptoms at rates as high as 77%. They are caught between pressure from leadership and supporting their teams. Peak burnout is now happening at a startlingly earlier age for Gen Z and millennials compared to previous generations. Elena was the poster child for this trend. The week before the collapse, I saw her late on a Friday, head in her hands. She whispered, "It just never stops." It was the final observable data point before a complete system failure. That brings us back to the budget meeting, the perfect storm. This was a high-stakes affair where you publicly defend your team's performance in front of the C-suite. Elena had worked around the clock for 2 weeks to prepare. For the first 15 minutes, it was classic Elena, articulate, poised, and in command of the numbers. Then came the simple question from the CFO about a minor 0.5% variance, a detail she undoubtedly knew. She opened her mouth to answer. Nothing came out. The silence stretched. Her eyes darted wildly, searching for an escape. A tremor started in her hands and spread through her body. Her breathing became rapid and shallow. I can't," she stammered. And then she slid down the wall. The room froze. The budget meeting was over. The numbers on the screen, so important moments before, were now a meaningless collection of pixels. Her gasps for air were the sound of a human being whose body and mind had finally refused to carry an impossible weight any further. This wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a biological, physiological shutdown. A panic attack is the body's ultimate alarm system. For Elena, the perceived mortal threat wasn't a tiger, it was a spreadsheet. The chronic, unmanaged stress had finally been interpreted by her nervous system as a mortal danger. In that moment, she wasn't the superhero. She was just a person, systematically pushed beyond her limits by a culture that praised sacrifice until it demanded one too great. The corporate response was swift and predictable. An HR email cited a minor medical incident and wished her a speedy recovery. Elena was put on medical leave and never returned. Her workload was hastily redistributed, and it took 3 people to pick up the pieces. The department hadn't been running efficiently. It had been running on Elena. Her breakdown was a wake-up call. The cost of burnout isn't just human. It's a massive financial liability. Globally, burnout is estimated to cost businesses $322 billion annually in lost productivity. In the U.S. alone, that number is between 125 and 190 billion a year. Our company wasn't just failing Elena, it was failing its own bottom line. This illustrates a few critical points. First, burnout is a systemic problem, not an individual failing. Telling people to practice self-care or meditate is a pathetically inadequate solution for a problem baked into the corporate structure. You cannot meditate your way out of an impossible workload. The root causes are in the system: excessive workload, lack of control, and toxic culture. Elena didn't burn out because she was weak. She burned out because the system was designed to do it. Second, the deafening silence around mental health at work allows this to continue. After her breakdown, no one talked about it. This is incredibly common. A NAMI poll found that 42% of employees worry their career would be negatively impacted if they discussed mental health at work. This stigma creates a vicious cycle where people suffer alone, and companies avoid responsibility. Finally, a culture is the sum of its parts. It's easy to blame a faceless corporation, but a culture is made up of individuals. The choice to stay silent, to accept overwork as normal, and to participate in hero worship all contribute. A culture of caring isn't an HR mandate. It's built by colleagues pushing back against unreasonable demands together. Elena eventually resigned and found a healthier environment. But her story is a fundamental flaw in how we think about work. So, what's the solution? It has to happen on two fronts. First, organizations need to stop paying lip service to mental health. A wellness app is insulting when paired with a culture of chronic overwork. Real change means tackling root causes, actively managing workloads, clarifying expectations, and training managers to lead with empathy. Employees with supportive managers are 70% less likely to experience burnout. Leadership needs to model healthy behavior. Sending emails at 10 p.m. signals that this is the norm. Companies must reevaluate performance. Are you rewarding hours worked or sustainable, effective work? The business case is a slam dunk. Preventing burnout saves millions in turnover and retains top talent. Second, on an individual level, we have to view this through a lens of professional survival. Cultivate a life and identity outside of your job title. This isn't a distraction. It's the foundation of your resilience. Learn to set boundaries. This doesn't mean just saying no. It means saying, yes, I can do that, but what should I deprioritize to make room for it? It means taking your lunch break and using all of your vacation days. These aren't acts of defiance. They are acts of professional self-preservation. And finally, we have to break the silence. Ask your colleagues how they are really doing. 77% of employees say they'd be comfortable if a coworker talked to them about their mental health. Let's start taking each other up on that. Watching Elena break down was a clarifying moment. It revealed that the story of the star performer who collapses under the weight of expectation is a modern corporate tragedy, playing out in offices everywhere. This isn't just Elena's story. It's the story of the 82% of the workforce at risk for burnout. The employee who is one more project, one more late night away from their own conference room floor. We have to do better, not just for our well-being, but for the financial health of our organizations.